Who dat to the Who Dat Nation? Welcome to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed. And ladies and gentlemen, week 11 is in the books as the New Orleans Saints took on the Cleveland Browns in the second game under interim head coach Darren Rizzi, who took over for Dennis Allen, who was terminated a couple of weeks ago. He got his first win as the interim head coach last week when he defeated the Atlanta Falcons 20-17. And so how will this roll over into the second week against the Cleveland Browns, who are kind of on the fence themselves coming into this game with 7 losses, along with the Saints as well? Their starting quarterback is out for the year, and Jameis Winston got the nod to take over as starting quarterback for this team. And the Saints come out victorious, winning 2 straight under Darren Rizzi as the head honcho, I should say, the interim head coach. The Saints defeated the Cleveland Browns today by the score of 35-14 in what I would describe as one of the best games the Saints have played this season, all things considered. You know, not counting the first 2 weeks, you know, when the Saints were just out of this world bonanza, putting up 91 points in those first 2 games. But yeah, that was more of a mirage than anything. Whereas the next 7 weeks, we went on this just downward spiral where every game got worse and worse and worse. That led to the firing of Dennis Allen. And from that moment on, this team has got a new energy that I can't describe. I saw it last week, and I expected it last week because it's a new coach. He's going to try to come in and, you know, light the fire under these guys, and they're going to respond that first game. Plus, it was the Atlanta Falcons, the defensive rival, heated rival, and, you know, they were going to be up for that game. So the Saints came out victorious in that one. Understandable. Plus, we were back at home, back in the Dome for the first time in about a month. So it was a lot going into that game that was contributing to the Saints coming out victorious last week. So this week was the big question mark. Now, this isn't a game, or should I say a team that you can really put a measuring stick up to. I mean, like I said, they're the Cleveland Browns are just as bad as we are. You know, they're going through just as many problems as we are. And as we go over this game, you're going to sit back and think, like, how did they lose this game? At the end of this game, I was looking at the Cleveland Browns like, I know how y'all feeling right now. And it's not good. It is not good. It is the weirdest thing. I mean, they pretty much led in every statistical category throughout this game. They got 2 turnovers on the Saints, yet they lost. And it reminded me so much of how we lost games when we won time of possession, won total yards, won the turnover battle, and yet still lose. It's maddening. Those type of games would drive you up the wall. And so I understand the dog pound over there in Cleveland. I know what y'all going through right now. And trust me, you have my sympathy. I'm not going to poke fun at y'all because I didn't want nobody poking fun at us when we were going through it. But all praises to God. We have turned the corner. We've turned the corner as we head into this bye week where we can get some rest. You know, we can ease our brains because we need it. The team needs it, and the fan base needs it as well. But no better feeling than it is to go into a bye week with a victory. Not just a victory, but a 2-game a winning streak. That is a great feeling, especially coming off of the last 7 weeks prior to this, where it looked like the world was falling in, like all was lost. And this feels good. The Cleveland Browns, they came to play. You got to tip your hat to the Cleveland Browns. They came to play. They really tested the New Orleans Saints today, in every aspect. Defense, not special teams, but offense. They really came to play. But thanks in part to one man who put on the cake, one man who put this team, this city, this organization, everybody on his shoulders and ran it down the Cleveland Browns' throat. It was none other than Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill was the Saints just juggernaut today, to help us walk away with this 35-14 win over the Cleveland Browns. The win was the Saints' second consecutive win under Darren Rizzi, and they improved their record to 4-7 heading into the bye week. The Browns, on the other hand, they fall to 2-8. Taysom Hill, he was all over the field, all over. He ran for 3 touchdowns. He had a 10-yard touchdown, a 33-yard touchdown, and the one that put the nail in the coffin in the fourth quarter, the 75-yard touchdown. He had a 18-yard pass completion. He returned a kick for 42 yards. He had a block. Well, he didn't block, but he was blocking on punt returns and protections on block. I mean, he was everywhere. The only thing he didn't do was play defense today. Everywhere else, he was he was all over the field. He also turned the ball over twice. Let's as much as we want to praise him, let's give him his due there too. He threw an interception and he fumbled today. So there was that, but he made up for it. He later made up for it. He finished with 138 yards rushing today. He also had 50 yards receiving on 8 catches, 42 yards on kick returns, and an 18-yard completion. All 3 touchdowns came with Hill lined up as quarterback. And yes, that includes the 75-yard touchdown run with 2 minutes and 20-something seconds left in the game, which was his longest touchdown run of his career. Let's not forget. I want to keep throwing this out here. Taysom Hill is 34 years old, but he plays like he's 24 years old. He has so much speed and power, and I mean, he truly is a gadget player. He truly is the Swiss Army knife. I mean, this dude does it all and does it all well, except quarterback. Yeah, he had that one completion, which was nice, but the quarterback, because true quarterback play, you wasn't going to throw that intercept. That was a bad throw by Taysom Hill. But like I said, he made up for it later on. Now, he wasn't the only one that played. Derek Carr played today. He was efficient. He was 21 for 27, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns today. Like I said, he was efficient. He didn't set the world on fire, but he didn't burn nothing down either. So I'm not mad at him. It was a few throws there that I was like, come on, Derek. I mean, my God, man. He didn't turn the ball over, so that's a plus. But it was just, I don't know. It could be partially my dislike for the young man. I don't hate him. I just have a dislike. I don't think he's this guy. I don't think he's the guy that can lead us to a championship. But it is what it is. He played fine today. Now, on the other side of the ball, our defense was a tad inconsistent, just to put it mildly. Today, they gave up a lot of yards to the Cleveland Browns today. Jameis Winston went bananas on the Saints defense today. But I mean, when they needed to make stops, they did at times. Other times, I don't know. This man coverage that they're constantly caught in and constantly being burnt in, something needs to change there because it's becoming a problem. Everybody's always out of position. You have cornerbacks who think that they have safety help over the top every time, and it's never there. The safeties are never there, and we're getting torched. Alante Taylor, he got torched a couple of times. And now, I thought about it while the game was going on. Alante Taylor, he is an outside corner. They changed him to an inside corner, turned him into a nickel corner, and for the past 2 years, so he's been, adapting to that. Now, with Adebo going out, with Marshawn Lattimore being traded, now he moves back to the outside. And so now he has to kind of unlearn what he learned as a nickel corner. So I think that's a lot of things that is kind of holding him back, in the position he's in right now. I think Alante Taylor is a really good cornerback. But the bouncing back and forth and, because you have to play those positions differently. Just because you have cornerback by your name don't mean you can play every single cornerback position. Playing the slot is different than playing the outside. It's not it's not the same thing. But anyways, I think that contributes to a lot. Also, the safeties not being what they're supposed to be. The communication in the backfield is horrible. It's horrible. Nobody knows where they're supposed to be, and that needs to change. And it was good to see Tyrann Mathieu on that touchdown, that last touchdown that the Browns scored. He really tore in to the secondary on the sideline. He was going off, and from that moment on, they got better because they know they play better than that. That's ridiculous. There's no reason why receivers and tight ends should be that wide open. I'm talking 10 yards between them and the Saints defender. That is ridiculous to me. I just don't get it. But there were some bright spots on defense. It wasn't all doom and gloom, of course, because we won. We won pretty big. So that lets you know that the defense did do something, and they did. Defensive tackle Brian Bursey, he had 1.5 sacks today. Carl Granderson had a sack. Chase Young had a half a sack. It was some production on that front four on our defensive line today that I was 100% excited about, happy to see, because anytime we blitzed, we left our defensive backfield exposed, man. And Jameis Winston took advantage of it. So that front four had to step up late, and they did in a major way. They put a lot of pressure on Jameis Winston throughout the second half, and what really surprised me, shocked me, made me happy was that they actually made an adjustment. I was so proud of this team. Even if they would have went out there and it didn't work, I was happy with the fact that they tried something different. Offensively, it took a while for them to do it, but some of that you got to give credit to the Cleveland Browns defense as well. They made their adjustments. It weren't like they were just sitting back there waiting to see what you was going to do. So they were taking a lot of stuff away, the deep passes and all this. Kudos to the Cleveland Browns for that. But it took a while for the Saints to really figure out that, the run was there. The short passes were there. The screen passes were there. The tight end was wide open the whole game. Let's exploit it. Let's use that. And so a good job in that front. It was kind of, this was a good win, but there's still some bad news. Eric McCoy returned today, our center. He returned today. He saw his first action since week 3 against the Eagles, and I think that was like the first drive that he got hurt. So he was finally back in, and you could tell. That offensive line looked 10 times different, 10 times better when he was in. Unfortunately, in the third quarter, he left the game. He was replaced by Shane Lemieux. I didn't catch what happened. You know, is it the groin again or anything? The good news was they kept showing him on the sideline just standing there. It wasn't like he had to go to the locker room or hit the tent or anything like that. So that's encouraging. Maybe it's something minor. They just didn't want to risk it, being as though this is his first game back or whatever. But he did leave the game and didn't return. But we do have a bye, so that's good. So if there is a little tweak there, at least you have a extra week of recovery. Let's go over the stats for today's game against the Cleveland Browns, where we got the victory. Beginning with passing, let's start over in Cleveland with the Browns. Jameis Winston, his return back to New Orleans. I'm going to tell you this. I miss Jameis Winston. I really do. Jameis Winston is just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I just love him. I really do. And he's the type of quarterback that I don't care what's going on in the game. Jameis Winston is going to try to win the game, for better or for worse. No, by any means necessary. He's going to try to win the game, and he's going to give it his all. Never once you're going to question if Jameis Winston stepped on the field and just mailed it in. That's not going to happen with Jameis, and he didn't today. Today he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. He played well enough to win this game. If anybody should walk out of that Browns locker room with their head held high, it's Jameis Winston. His numbers go as such. He was 30 for 46, 395 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times today. No interceptions, no turnovers of any kind. He really showed out today. I'm so happy for him. I wanted him to have a good game, not so much at our expense, but I just wanted him to have a decent game. I didn't want him to go and lose the game for the Browns. I wanted him to have a good game, and he had a great game, and we still won the game. So it's even better. I feel even better. For the New Orleans Saints passing, Derek Carr, 21 of 27, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was sacked once today. Leading rusher for the Cleveland Browns was Nick Chubb, 11 carries for 50 yards. Leading rusher for the Saints today, that no-brainer, Taysom Hill, 7 carries for 138 yards and not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns today. Leading receiver for the Cleveland Browns was Jerry Jeudy, 6 catches for 142 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, boy, he really ate. He ate today. For the Saints, it was Van Scantling, 2 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. The leading tackler for the Cleveland Browns is Grant Delpit. Shouts out to him. New Orleans boy, 504 boy. He had 9 tackles today. And for the Saints, it was Demario Davis with 13 tackles today. Man, look, once again, let me say this about the defense, and we're going to move on with the rest of the stats. Have y'all noticed? And maybe I'm reading into things too much or whatever the case may be. Have y'all noticed that defense plays with a little more vigor? Plays with a little more energy since the departure of Dennis Allen. Maybe it's me. But prior to these 2 weeks, last 2 weeks, Demario Davis was looking old. Cam Jordan was looking old. All these players, Chase Young wasn't registering nothing in the stat box. Brian Brzee wasn't doing it. All these people who I'm naming have registered something in the stat line. Cam Jordan looked like a man possessed today. He was all over. He was batting down passes. He was rushing. It was crazy to see. I'm like, where was this all season? Chase Young got a half a sack. He even had a play where he was just running on the field and came in and made a play for a stop. And all type of stuff, Carl Granderson flying around and all. I mean, and Demario Davis was laying the boom today. He chose violence this morning. He was hitting today. I was like, man, this is not the same team from 3 weeks ago. But moving over to our team stats today, beginning with first downs, the Cleveland Browns had 22 first downs, Saints had 19. Third down conversions, the Browns were 3 for 13, Saints were 5 for 10. On fourth down, Browns were 1 for 3, Saints were 1 for 1. Total plays ran, Browns ran 70 plays today. Saints ran 58. Total yardage, Browns 443 yards to the Saints 473 yards. Both teams had 11 drives. Browns were 6 for 3 yards per play. Saints were 8.2 yards per play. Passing yardage, Browns 377, Saints 259. Rushing, Browns 66 yards rushing to the Saints 214 yards rushing. In the red zone, Browns were 0 for 1 in the red zone. Saints were 2 for 3 in the red zone. Penalties today, Browns had 3 penalties for 14 yards. Saints 5 penalties for 42 yards. Turnovers, Browns didn't turn the ball over today. Saints turned the ball over twice. Time of possession, wouldn't you believe it? Saints won the time of possession today. They had the ball for 30 minutes and 38 seconds. Browns had the ball for 29 minutes and 22 seconds. And it also helps. It also helps when your field goal kicker. I mean, God bless that dude, but that dude missed 3 field goals today. 3 for the Cleveland Browns. My God. And I mean, missed them. It wasn't like last week when what's his name, Younghoe Koo missed them, but it kind of dinged off of the upright, or it got blocked, or it kind of just swirled off past the upright. No, this dude, as soon as it left his foot, it was way to the left. It was, I mean, every kick. One time he had 2 shots at it and he still missed. It's like, man, this dude, somebody put a hex on him when he walked in there. Well, I guess for the last 2 weeks, we field goal kickers can't kick a field goal. At least opposing team field goal kickers can't kick a field goal against the Saints. And I'm not mad at it. Plus, Browns, they missed a 2-point conversion, and it was, Browns had their opportunities. I'll put it like that. They had their chances. It just didn't go their way, and you can clearly see why they only won 2 games this season. Now, once again, this ain't a shot. This is just because it ain't like we super far off. We only won 4 games this season, but yeah, I sympathize with them. Let's get to our grades. Our grades against the Cleveland Browns. And in case this is your first time listening to the Dawn Patrol podcast, and I thank you for checking out the show. Hopefully, I say something that will help you continue to check out the Dawn Patrol podcast here on the KB Radio Network. But the way this works, I grade every unit of the Saints squad today: offense, defense, special teams, and the coaching. And we round it all up to come up with an overall grade for the performance of the New Orleans Saints versus the Cleveland Browns in Week 11, beginning with offense. Offense today gets a letter grade of a B+. They really did a good job today running the ball. Derek Carr had a really decent game today. Offensive line did a exceptional job. Even after Eric McCoy exited the game, they looked really good. Why they got a B+ is the adjustments that I was talking about earlier, where it's like Clint Kubiak he's great with the first 10, 15 plays of a drive, of the game, scripting them out. He's great at that. But as the game goes on, as defenses adjust to what you're doing, it's like it takes him a while to kind of figure it out. And I know this is his first foray into play calling. He's been under some great leadership where he has been. That's how he ended up getting this job. But as far as calling the plays, this is really him cutting his teeth with that. But he really needs to learn how to adjust. Now it was better today. It was better today than it was in the past few games, of course. So I'll give him that. We're getting better, but when you play a better team like we are in a couple of weeks, you can't take your time with your adjustments. You're gonna have to adjust a little quicker. Luckily, we played a team that's kind of in the same situation that we in, or maybe a little worse than us now that we beat them. But the offense gets a B plus. Defense gets a C plus. Defense, as I said, late in the game, especially in that second half, they really looked good. I mean, with the exception of really, really 3 plays, maybe 4 big plays. The defense really did do a good job. I'm being kind of unfair with them now that I look at this grade and really think about what they did. But they, it's like third and long, third and tens and third and eights and stuff like that. Third and 15s that we had here, where the Cleveland Browns were converting or getting into position to convert a 4th and 1 after having a 3rd and 15. It's stuff like that that just like blows my mind. The blown coverages, the whiffs on the tackle. Even though the tackling has gotten better over the past couple of weeks, it still leaves a lot to be desired there. But it's really those things, the pass coverage, staying in man coverage in certain situations where you really should be in zone. And that's really giving me pause. The defensive line, it took them 3 quarters to really realize that, what, we can go after a quarterback. I think we were allowed to hit the quarterback, and it finally dawned on them. So it took forever. But I'm glad that they finally woke up and realized that they could. But those big plays really did hurt. Allowing the momentum to swing at times. Giving up a 98-yard drive and a 78-yard drive and all this other stuff. I mean, come on, man. Y'all got to do better than that. So the defense gets a C plus. Special teams gets an A. Special teams an A. The special teams are, the most consistent unit on this team all year. Even in our 7-game skid, the special teams were still doing their job. So I have nothing bad to say about the special teams. Coaching today gets an A minus, and that's once again on a curve because we are dealing with an interim head coach who just got the job a couple of weeks ago. And the way he has this team prepared to play for the past 2 weeks is phenomenal to me. It is phenomenal how this team has really shifted their perspective, how they come out and, being prepared, executing their plays. It really shines a light on how bad Dennis Allen was. And I hate to kick a man while he's down, but it is truly night and day. It is night and day. I was at the end of this game. Well, I'll say in the second half of this game, when we had turned the ball over a couple of times and it looked like we couldn't stop a nosebleed on defense at some point. And I was thinking about Dennis Allen. And I was thinking about how in the past, and I don't mean a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I'm talking a couple of weeks ago, we would have lost this game under Dennis Allen. We would have lost the Atlanta game under Dennis Allen. Let's be real. Just think, situations like that would have derailed everything under Dennis Allen. But when we turned the ball over, here's the key point. Here's the key point why coaching gets an A. Saints turned the ball over twice today. The Cleveland Browns got 0 points off of those turnovers. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean, having your team prepared to play. So, yes, they get an A. Overall today, the New Orleans Saints gets a B+ in their performance against the Cleveland Browns. I'm really super impressed with this squad. I am truly proud to be a Saints fan again. It is it's a good feeling because I forgot how that felt. It's been 2 months since we've had a 2-game win streak, and that was the first 2 games of the season. And going into this bye, so that gives us 2 weeks to kind of soak this in, and that's great, man. This is a great feeling. The MVP for today's matchup, I mean, come on, that's a stupid question, but hey, I gotta answer it, and it's, of course, Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill was a man possessed today. I don't know if the Cleveland Browns talked about his mama or slapped his kids or whatever. I don't know what they did to Taysom Hill, but Taysom Hill woke up this morning and said the Cleveland Browns, I'm sending them back to Cleveland with their head tucked between their legs. He told them up today, single-handedly tore them up. And so, yes, he gets the game ball today. As I said before, the Saints are on a bye next week. So, oh man, I got a break. We all got a break. So we won't be back next week to preview any games. Just to swing around the rest of the NFC South right now. Tampa is on a bye this week, and Carolina is on a bye this week. But Atlanta currently is playing the Denver Broncos. I believe, as it stands right now, the Denver Broncos are winning that game at the time of this recording. So we shall see. Atlanta is 6-4. We'll see the outcome of that game, how it all plays out. But, hopefully Sean Payton can give us a little help there, moving forward, and beat the Atlanta Falcons. But, at this point, it is what it is. We know Tampa is 4-6, and Carolina is 3-7. Now the Saints are now 4-7, and this really was a big win if we're putting things in perspective, especially if Atlanta loses to Denver. That puts a lot of feelings, a lot of the feelings that we were having about a month ago. It makes us question, well, do we want to tank? Do we want to tank or try to make something out of this season? Me, as I said in the preview show to this game, I'm still on the fence with it. I'm really of the frame of mind, I don't care, but not in the sense like, oh, I don't care what they do. No, it's not really that. It's more of, if we win, great. If we lose, cool. If we lose in a respectable fashion, if we lose fighting, like the Cleveland Browns did today. Cleveland Browns really played a good game. They really did. They played a good game, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It ain't like they went out there and turned the ball over and did stupid stuff or committed stupid penalties and stuff like that. They really didn't. They played a fairly clean, hard-fought game. It just, certain things didn't bounce their way. The field goal kicker sold them out. They couldn't stop Taysom Hill. They couldn't put a hit out on him quick enough to get rid of him. But they played a really good game. It's respectable. it's really respectable. Even in looking at the score, you like, man, the Saints tore them apart. Nah, it really wasn't like that. But yeah, I would respect it if the Saints go out there and just play hard and let the chips fall as they may. If we get the victory, great. If we don't, all right. I just want the team to fight. That's it. But if that leads to us maybe doing something this season, fine. But at the same time, I look around the NFC at these teams at the top of the NFC. I don't want to go and get embarrassed by any of these teams. I don't know. I guess we'll just play it week to week, and that's the best we can do. But I would love to know, what is your feelings going forward? How do you feel? Do you feel the Saints are primed for a run? I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. Saints can go on this historical run and just shock the league. I doubt it, but maybe you can convince me otherwise. You can let me know by email. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, we're on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel. Like this video, share this video. Let the world know that you're listening to the Dome Patrol podcast. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast. Your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this recap and reaction to the Saints coming out victorious against the Cleveland Browns by the score of 35-14. Bringing their record to 4-7 as we enter the bye week. Oh man, this feels good. It feels so good that for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be screaming to the top of my lungs, who that?